Start off by loosening the wheel nuts, then jack the car up and use an axle stand as well. Remove the wheel and put it under the sill of the car for added protection against the car falling on you. As you can see here, the brake is stuck solid and something serious has gone wrong for the brake to be like this. I have already undone these 2 bolts here that hold the brake caliper on. Take these 2 bolts out and gently prise off the brake caliper. You can see here that the inner brake pad has no friction pad material left, and the brake pad is so slim that it has slipped down into the brake carrier and jammed the brake up. Make sure the brake caliper is placed or tied up so it does not hang down on the brake pipe. I'm putting 3 wheel nuts back on to try and lever the brake backwards with a bar and do not want to damage the threads. I do not need to do this as I will be removing the brake carrier later, but just want to see how tight the pad is stuck. The brake is completely stuck and removing the metal backing of the pad shows how far the pad has moved down and bent the metal. Even trying to tap the pad out shows that it is well and truly stuck. To make it easier to access the brake carrier bolts, turn the steering wheel as far as it will go. This will give you plenty of room to use a long breaker bar. Once you have loosened the bolts with a breaker bar, you can then use a ratchet or electric impact gun to undo them. Leave the bottom bolt in loose until you have freed the top bolt, otherwise the brake carrier may tilt forward. Now the bolts are removed, you can take off the brake carrier. This one was stuck on pretty tight due to the stuck brake pad, but did come off after a small struggle. You can see that the brake pad has no friction material left, and the metal is worn down completely. A quick inspection of the brake carrier shows no damage has been done to it. I'm tying up the brake caliper with a bungee cord to move it out of the way when I remove the disc. Torx T30. I'm using a Torx T30 bit to remove the retainer screw on the brake disc, and I'm using an impact gun, but you could use an impact driver if the screw is stuck. Sometimes the disc will come off easy, but most of the time rust will be holding it on. The best way to shock the rust free is to hit the face of the disc. When you hit the disc, you must not hit the studs or you will damage the threads. Also, I would advise you to wear some safety glasses as nobody likes metal fragments in their eye. The inside of the brake disc has been worn down by having metal to metal contact. I'm using different size wire brushes to clean as much rust off as possible. The disc will not sit flush if you do not give it a good clean. Give the surface a light coat of copper grease to prevent the new disc from rusting onto the hub. Most new brake discs come with a light coat of oil to stop them rusting, and this must be cleaned off with a degreaser. The brakes I have are lightly coated with a special paint. This can be left on, although I did give them a quick wipe over to remove any contaminants. Match up the hole where the torque screw goes on the hub and replace the disc and do up the torque screw. There will be a lot of brake dust build-up where the pad sits in the brake carrier. Give it a good wire brushing to remove it, but be careful to avoid damaging the two rubber boots for the sliders. Pull each slider out and clean off and then reapply a light coat of grease. Do not use copper grease on sliders as this is not recommended. I use Silkaline Pro RG2 grease. Turn the steering out again, ready to install the brake carrier bracket. The bolts for the bracket have old thread lock on them, so try and clean off as much of the old thread lock as you can and reapply some new thread lock to each bolt. These bolts have to be done pretty tight, and as the cars are based on the Chevrolet Captiva, the only reference I could find online was 170 Newton meters, which is tight. Check the brake fluid level and leave the lid off ready for when you push the two pistons back in. I made a mistake with the camera angle here, so it's difficult to see what I'm doing. I'm using an old brake pad to compress the dual piston caliper. You have to compress the two pistons down at the same time. When moving the piston back in, check that the brake fluid level does not overflow. I'm using synthetic grease here, as copper grease is not recommended on the sliding part of the pads, as copper grease becomes sticky over time. Add a small amount to the top and bottom of the pads and a little on the brake carrier where the pad sits. The brake caliper has 14mm bolts, and the only reference I could find for torque settings is 44 Newton meters. Make sure to press the brake a few times to pump the pistons back out. Apply some copper grease where the wheel and hub meet to make it easy to remove the wheels when needed. Then replace your wheel, and that's it, you're done. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.